they take to the start here for the very first time. Looking down the inside of Jack Keithley as well, a touch of contact between the two. Still rubbing wheel to wheel. What a move! Fantastic stuff. Welcome to the home of British motorsport. After a thrilling previous round at Hockenheim, Moritz Lerner won race 1, Jack Keithley won race 2, but it was Ottaviani being the most consistent and keeping out of trouble to top the standings. It was fantastic racing from start to finish, and the expectation is that that will continue here in Northamptonshire at the home of British motorsport. Silverstone, the host of our action today, the CUPRA SimRacing Series 2021 returns. I'm McGlade, Chris Buxton in the booth, and we are ready for some more action.
Oh, aren't we just? There is the calendar as we currently stand. Round number 2 is Lewis Sadie here at beautiful Silverstone. Never fails to generate some incredible action. And then in 4 weeks' time, we'll be heading to the big old Nordschleife herself, which is going to be an absolutely incredible event on the 17th of June. What an incredible series we have. That is our entry list. And yet again, what an array of talent we've got.
Yeah, fantastic names from top to bottom. Alessandro Ottaviani for Virtual Drivers by TX3 in there, of course. We also have Gianmarco Fiducci, who topped pre-qualifying coming into this. A few names returning, the likes of Kirill Antonov and Tim Yarshall. Still no Noj, but it is getting pretty tight out there and pretty feisty with some of those drivers.
Let's have a quick reminder on what happened on the first race of the season at Hockenheim.
It's from the CUPRA SimRacing Series 2021. The opening round from the Hockenheim ring would see Moritz Lerner on pole position from Alessandro Ottaviani. Barner, Banky and Haase would round out the top 5 in the qualifying session behind. Big names missing from the first round of the season. Antonov and Ulrich missing, as well as defending series champion David Noj. First race of the season then, and Moritz Lerner would be leading from pole position into turn 1. The battle pack behind, though, would see Ottaviani and Martin Barner bashing doors through turn 1. Same with the Duer Esports teammates as they ran into turn 2. As we ride on board with Gergo Bowdy, you can see the contact between Florian Haase and Bent Banky, a light brush between the two to switch positions, and then it would be separated by Pliska, who would dive it down the inside into the hairpin and get through on Bent Banky, not on Florian Haase though. Jack Keithley would be on the attack in the early stage of the race, getting past Pavel McConan and up into 9th position, which would be important for the reverse grid race afterwards. Christian Newharsh would dive down the inside at T2 and make contact with Adam Pinsesh, allowing his teammate Lucas Verler through as we ride back on board with Pavel McConan, getting a position back on Jack Keithley. Wouldn't be long for Keithley to return a punch and get back down the inside of the Russian and into 9th place. All this battling would allow Juan Manuel Gomez to be back a part of the fight as he would move up into the reverse grid pole. Ottaviani would finally be through on Barner. A dive at the hairpin would also open the door for Haase to sneak a position on the Hungarian. And then a move for Gianmarco Fiducci to the inside of Gergo Bowdy, the two tussling for positions. It would switch back the way as Bowdy would be passed, and then on the Parabolica, Fiducci would once again retake the position. Barner would fall into the clutches of Pliska, who would go around the outside heading into the stadium section for the final time. A little bit of contact between the two, but the position would be Pliska's. At the front of the field, though, Moritz Lerner draws first blood in 2021. Behind him, though, on the podium, Alessandro Ottaviani would hang on to second with Florian Haase up onto third. Juan Manuel Gomez would be reversed onto the pole position from Keithley, Bowdy, Fiducci and Banky. Gomez then from pole position. They'd all be clear off the starting grid for the second race of the evening. Keithley, though, would instantly go on the attack down into turn 2, making the dive and getting past the Argentinian driver, also opening the door for Bowdy as well to sneak through into second place. The drivers would go 5 wide into the hairpin on the first lap, causing a bit of drama for some drivers, dropping them into the mid-pack. Moritz Lerner would be starting his march forwards, but would have to keep his eyes behind as there was an awful lot of pressure brewing. Pressure that would see itself sent quite early as Zoltan Ciuti would dive down the inside, making contact and dropping Moritz Lerner into the danger zone. Florian Haase would make a mistake into the hairpin, locking up his tyres and opening the door even for Zoltan Ciuti to sneak through in the scenario as he marches up to the top group. The two Fordzilla drivers would switch positions as Gomez allowed Fiducci to set his sights on a potential victory. Banky would also follow him through and get up into 4th position. At the front of the field, Jack Keithley will be under pressure from Baldi, but it was Baldi under pressure from Fiducci that was the main story. A beautiful cutback from the Italian promotes him to 2nd. Fantastic battle continuing at the front as Fiducci would then go for the undercut on Jack Keithley and take the lead of the 2nd race here at Hockenheim, but Keithley would bite back immediately with a dive down the inside into the arena section, opening the door for Baldi to pass as well. He would instantly go for the race victory as he dived into the stadium section. It would be the outside line though into the Sachs curve, and Jack Keithley would hold the position. Benz Banky would get past Gianmarco Fiducci. Now quartet for the lead would continue to battle. Fiducci passing Banky. It wouldn't be long before Banky would repass Fiducci, but out of the final corner, Jack Keithley would hold off everyone to take victory here at Hockenheim. Two fantastic races then to open the season, with Keithley, Baldi and Banky being on the podium. No learner inside the top 10 as we wrap up at Hockenheim.
But what a series of races that was. I mean, that 5-wide moment going into the hairpin was something to behold. But yeah, Jack Keithley did brilliantly well to win the 2nd race and keep himself very much in contention. Long old season ahead, but so much battling to do.
Yeah, it really, really is. And with the experience of some drivers, the likes of Jack Keithley and Moritz Lerner, we are going to see a tight fight all the way through. A bit of stats on your screen about Jack Keithley himself. 29 years of age and has been in sim racing for a very long time. FSR 2012 World Series champion. That is the 2nd series in line with the World Championship. And trust me, back then especially, it was a super competitive field, as one in touring cars, endurance racing, open wheelers alike, and obviously has been racing here on RaceRoom competition for a fair while, winning God knows how many competitions. He has been at the front of basically everything that has touched the race surface on this platform, and continues to do very much the same. And now, of course, like it's one of those things of RaceRoom competition these days, with the CUPRA SimRacing Series, being able to see them in their proper liveries.
Yes, indeed. Jack Keithley was rather the elder statesman of the pack, almost, and not meaning that in an ungratifying light, because if we're going to talk about age, yes, I'll not have that conversation with anyone. But yeah, he, like you say, he's raced anything that has an engine in the virtual world. But I mean, if we want to talk about experience, look at that from Gianmarco Fiducci. It's a staggering amount of practice for this event alone. We were crunching the numbers before we came on air. How many laps did you figure this out to be, Lewis?
I think it was about 250 odd, which, I mean, you'd normally say that, it's not actually, when you think about it, it's not actually that much. But when you actually think about it, it's 250 laps of a 2-minute and 10 lap. That is over 8 hours of practice to weigh in some decent lap times around there. Is really putting the effort, and top to pre-qualifying. We have come to Silverstone before in Cupra's, sort of. It was the Cupra e-racing competition, and it was the national circuit. We've never run the full layout, and in the actual CUPRA SimRacing Series itself, we have not visited the home of British motorsport. When we did come here in the Cupra e-racing competition, though, it was this man who was victorious. Tim Yarshall obviously went on to win the Cupra e-racing competition championship as well. On the podium that day, Florian Haase and Jack Keithley as well. How things will play out here, though, will be very, very interesting, because, of course, we've got a 25-minute race and then followed by another one that is a top 10 reverse grid. Let's take a look very quickly at the standings before we get into that qualifying session. Alessandro Ottaviani topping the standings at the moment, 91 points, 11 clear of Jack Keithley after that victory. We've also got Moritz Lerner, who's a bit further down, 10 points. He was deducted after a penalty for the previous round. Quite a few penalties from Hockenheim. But before we get into qualifying, we'll just take a quick break. Moritz Lerner already with a pole position this season back at Hockenheim. Can he double the feat here at Silverstone? Round 2 about to get underway for the all-important qualifying session to set the order for the first race of the evening. Not the second one, though. We don't have a qualifying for that in 2021. It's all about a top 10 reverse grid that we'll cover towards the end of the first race. And of course, in classic fashion in CUPRA SimRacing Series, it's an open session. Everyone's out on track and everyone's fighting hard.
And already we have a fight down at Village. My goodness me, we rather saw that in the preceding practice session as well. There is our very well practiced Italian, Gianmarco Fiducci, near the front of the particular barrel. That's obviously the ideal place to be. And there he is himself, the hot-blooded Italian. He got himself a little bit of hot water last season of the CUPRA Series, as we mentioned last week as well. But very much keeping his head under control this time, and everyone is literally the tyre tracks of the number 3 right in front. Well, no, they're doing some racing practice, and they now come through COPS. Well, not the fastest way of doing it, but it gives us something to shout about.
Yeah, this is Alessandro Ottaviani, who was desperately trying to get to the head of that field. It's Alan Pinsesh directly behind, basically just sort of sat there waiting for something to happen. Driving this season rather for Arnage competition is Adam Pinsesh. There is the virtual drivers by TX3 man on the right hand side of your screen, Ottaviani, who do you know, I didn't quite pick up the fact that he'd be leading the championship. Did qualify in second position and showed some very, very good pace in the previous round, but I didn't expect him to be that strong. What a consistent round from the Italian.
Absolutely, and you know, consistency is key in pretty much any forms of motorsport. My God, he's throwing the car around, something awful. And wow, not to be outdone, right behind him, the number 3 is dancing around on his tires. But yeah, consistency is so crucial, especially with the reverse grid that make up a very significant amount of points in any one round as well. So yeah, great stuff to Ottaviani. I wonder whether Alessandro expected to be towards the front of the table as well after round 1. It does put a little bit of extra pressure on you to continue that momentum, but it just goes to show that it doesn't all come down to just the one result.
Indeed, there are also points up for this session as well. 10 for grabbing pole position, then it's 8, 6, 4, 2 and a 1 all the way down to 6th place. So points are already up for offers. We're riding on board with Alessandro Ottaviani down into T3, into the Loop and Village section, which is so tight and twisty. We're going to see plenty of overtakes around this area of the circuit, then out onto the Wellington Straight, where I don't know about you, but that run into Brooklands these days on this build, I know it's, some people have said, oh, the old Silverstone's best Silverstone, but I absolutely love Brooklands on this build.
It's very easy to get wrong as well. Brooklands is a slightly increasing radius turn, so if you go in there a bit too hot, you really hurt your run through Luffield as we now come through the right-hander, which feels like it goes on forever. But if you go wide, you are losing so much time on both Brooklands and Luffield. Now coming through Woodcote, absolutely flat out, nothing you need to worry about. Down towards Cops, the overtaking spot of the Brave. We've seen some amazing overtakes go on there in various other racing series. But again, very easy to go wrong. And now the curb is high enough to unsettle these cars. And again, if you fly off the road there, you can just keep your foot in it, but it's not ideal to do. Magus Beckes, one of the most famous racing sections in any sport, any track, knows this section well. Ottaviani got a little bit unsettled there. That's going to compromise his run through Chapel onto the Hangar Straight as the slipstreamer's dream heading towards the final sector.
Yeah, this is the problem with such a long circuit, 2 minutes and 10 seconds, slightly under. The issue really comes from the fact that it's a massive slipstream fest. As much as you've got a lot of corners, these cars don't really put out too much dirty air. You can see he's got a bit of a gap behind. Adam Pinsesh has actually dropped behind Gianmarco Fiducci in that train. So he's actually got a fair amount of clear air and might top the session for the very early stages. Could be potentially Tim Yarshaw or Jack Keithley, who we just spotted at the back end of this train coming through the club section. But with it being such a long lap, this qualifying session, you're only going to really get a couple of laps onto the board. At the moment, then topping the session, Ottaviani instantly beaten by Yarshaw and Gianmarco Fiducci as better times come in. Kirill Antonov, who took victory in the final round of last season, took both victories at Macau to finish the season and then missed out on getting even onto the split one grid last time out by just 1,000th of a second. And by the way, it was just as close this time to get into split one. Antonov just missing out, but he did do split two, and that actually puts him into a decent position in the championship. He was actually 13th after doing the second split and winning one of the races there.
Nicely done. And that's no mean feat, as we saw last week, just how close the entire field is, top to bottom, in the preceding practice session for this race was less than a second and over a 2-minute lap. That is an astronomical achievement.
Yeah, Lada Sport Roseneft getting 2 cars on the grid. Of course, Pavel Makonnen, who's a little bit ahead on circuit to Kirill Antonov at the moment, just a bit further down the road. There's the note that scored a victory in a second place in Server 2 at Hockenheim, and his results prior to that, as I was saying, back in last season, was of course 2 race victories at the final round of the season, and how that could have shaped the young Russian's career in sim racing. You know, he can really build up through that, building confidence. We've spoken so many times about how sim racing and motorsport in general very much is a confidence sport, and with that just push it a little bit further onto the confidence scale. 2 Ballas Esports teammates riding around on circuit as we look backwards from Luciano Wittfurt to Pliszka, who again, going through the replays and stuff and making those highlights, boy, did he have a good round last time out. A couple of, I think it was 5th and a 6th from memory. Very, very consistent in what was a very hard-fought round.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very solid, well within the top 10, and again, making his stake on a strong championship position very, very early on. Again, the consistency is really, really crucial to maintain, and that is an absolutely brilliant performance from Peter Pliszka. Again, not someone you would necessarily expect to be in that top 10, but wow, did he prove that one wrong.
Indeed. Reminder as well, as much as we're qualifying on screen at the moment and 10 points up for offer, you can get yourself onto the grid next time out. We head to the Nürburgring. Got 3 weeks until that. I think it's 2 weeks and 3 days that you've got to pre-qualify your way in. Go and get yourselves onto Split 1. That is going to be a tight fight to get in, even around the longest circuit on the calendar. It's the only endurance race we are doing this season, where last season, or 2 previous seasons, we've done sprint round and endurance and sprint round and endurance and have worked that all across. This, it is all about the sprint races, so it is just action, action, action as we race our way around the calendar. Final 4.5 minutes left of the session, so those drivers getting out onto track now will be starting their final run. Christian Juhasz, who's currently on screen for Snowshout Esports, he has a qualifying ban, breached 3 penalty license points from the previous round at Hockenheim Ring, and has to sit out qualifying and work his way up the order in the races, and also not get into trouble, because I'm sure race control will be right on him if he was doing that.
That's going to be such a difficult task again.
Ooh,
talking about,
no.
well, as Mr. Lerner
sorry, that'll be his session done.
Very much so. Yeah, he's not going to have time to recover from that. Yeah, that was, well, he just went straight on. Well, technical failure would seem to be affecting him, as we now look at Martin Barner, purple in sector 1 by narrow margin, 0.5 of a second. But yeah, starting from the back of the field and trying to keep out of trouble, that's going to be such a big challenge for Yarsha. But well, we'll see how he does.
Yeah, there's a few drivers that are really in the danger zone. So Moritz Lerner, race winner and pole position last time out, so picking up 10 points, followed by a 50 for a race win. Did not have a good race 2, did not work his way through the order very well in race 2 at Hockenheim. Has a lot of work to do. Have seen him do the work before. Remember back to Dubai last season, really didn't qualify well that day, and that's where David Hodge really got one over him, who, by the way, didn't even attempt to qualify for this round, as we see our championship leader Alessandro Ottaviani way down the order himself. Not too many times on the board realistically, and that's kind of to be expected in such a tight session. Ottaviani, who was leading the train around on the first stint of the race, what's he going to do rather than qualifying? What's he going to do across the line? Only 8th, and he'll get one more lap on the board, but that's all that it's going to be, and in such what could be quite a hard-fought grid. There's a lot of overtaking opportunities around here at Silverstone, these kind of cars, but still, you don't want to be in that danger pack on lap 1.
No, indeed. With the penalty points being fairly easy to pick up, especially with a grid so balanced, you want to be able to get clear. You always want to get clear, quite frankly, but in fairness, the task is made that much more difficult when the pack is that closely condensed, which from a spectator standpoint, from our standpoint, gives us plenty of action to shout about, which I'm not complaining about at all.
No, absolutely not, and why would we? A few new drivers then on the grid. David Tott, who's currently on screen, 20th position at the moment, looking pretty decent through Sector 1 and Sector 2, and one thing that you'll note by him is driving around completely by himself. No one else is a part of this, which is kind of how I'd want to do my qualifying session. I don't want distractions. I don't want anyone else. I get it that slipstream's advantageous and stuff, but look at how many issues it has caused through this session. David top to the line, and there we go. Do you need slipstream? How about no? Up to 5th place.
What a performance. Now, again, we know that slipstream can make a difference, and a lot of people trying to use that to their advantage, but that goes to show that it's not the be-all or an end-all. That's an absolutely storming effort.
I think we might see one here from Gianmarco Verducci. We're currently on board with the Team Fordzilla driver who topped pre-qualifying. He's in the slipstream of Adam Pinsesh, although that second sector, no good to me. I think it might be done, and 3rd place might just be good enough, about as good as it gets. Time ticking away in this qualifying session. Back to the door, esports driver of Bench Banky, who's got a little bit of a party going on behind him, including one of his teammates as well. I think that might be Florian Haase, who Rakel and Haase are behind. I'd be curious with Haase, because Haase, I said, did well last season here. But why are these three together? And why was Moritz Lerner not a part of this train?
I'm not sure it was orchestrated, but we'll see. A train is a train at the end of the day, as our competitors continue to work their way through the turns. Out of Stowe now, as we're on board with Florian Haase in 13th position. Not a sentence you tend to say, but with only 0.3 of a second separating first down to 15th, it's not really a surprise. And there we go. That is how the qualifying stands, with Antonov holding on to the top spot a few times still to come in. But Martin Barner in second. And Florian Haase with that final run slots into 3rd, a 1/10 of a second separate to the top 4.
Yeah, wow, what a final time there from Florian Haase, and how important it was. But another session under the belt, but this time welcome to Split 1, Kirill Antonov, as he returns to the top of the CUPRA SimRacing Series, but in the best possible way. And by the top, I mean the very top, taking pole position for, I believe, the 3rd time in his CUPRA SimRacing Series career. And what an important effort that will be. It is still going to be a hard effort around here, because that run into Abbey, and particularly down into the Village and Loop section, and then of course that run to Brooklands, you are under fire so much.
You're pretty much under fire everywhere. Yeah, exactly as you say. There was down into Village, and the Loop is going to be really, really busy on that first lap. Brooklands, a great opportunity if you're brave enough to dive on the inside line. Through Cops if you're brave enough, and Stowe and Vale are going to be another very key overtaking opportunity for our drivers to try and make up those crucial positions. But of course, everyone is all going to be fighting for the same bit of tarmac, and we have the entire field for lap on lap on lap on lap last time out doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see some of our main championship protagonists down the order as we're about to get underway for the first race here at Silverstone. Antonov on pole position ahead of Martin Barner for Mirror Esports as we're ready to get underway. And that run into Abbey for the first time. Let's get this sorted then. 25 minutes on the clock and we are underway with Florian Haase getting a good launch from the second row of the grid, trying to go around the outside of the Hungarian. It is the Russian of Kirill Antonov for the Large Sport Rosenf team leading the way at the moment as the battle pack behind Titans. It was Zoltan Sciuti there who was trying to go around the outside of the entire mid-pack. I believe that's him battling it out. I think it might be with Banky himself as Barner there pushed off the road from our race leader Kirill Antonov. A little bit tight there, a little bit elbows out, was kind of what we'd expect.
Absolutely, and Martin Barner just giving Antonov a bit of a nudge going through Village, but it didn't really pay off for him. He was hung out to dry coming through the loop as we look back from Kirill Antonov, fending off the advances of pretty much everybody in the entire field. Through Brooklands, he's holding on to the inside line. Through Luffield, side by side as well. That's Haase and Verducci, I think. Oh no, big up on Sciuti and Pintes that was side by side, and there's Pintes being hung out to dry again, coming through Woodcote. But everybody seems to have survived the opening salvo of the first lap, and again, look at the tiny little gaps that have forming in the field. Actually, Sciuti is the one that's got a gap ahead of him of about 0.8 of a second, give or take. I'm sure he's concentrating very much on that huge conga line right behind him as they now enter Maggers and Beckett's for the first time in anger.
Yeah, look at how tight it is. They got Tim Yarshall here in the mid-pack, just trying to work his way up. He's on the back of the Team Fordzilla driver, being Juan Manuel Gomez. Ottaviani, championship leader, also down here as the timer ticking away. Of course, it's a long race, 25 minutes, plenty of time on the clock, but with such a long lap, those laps tick by very, very quickly indeed. Things looking great for this man, though. Antonov leading the way, but he is under so much pressure from Martin Barnamira Esports. How successful have they been in the recent times of RaceRoom racing competition? They've been right at the front, of course, with plenty of their drivers, Gergo Baldi and David Noj most notable in recent times. But for a brand moving forward, Barner is on the right train, it seems. Florian Haase, a part of the German super team of Dur Esports, looking to go on the attack himself.
Indeed, great onboard shot here. And oh, the car getting a little bit slidey as we coming through Abbey for the second time. Now heading down towards Village once again. Heavy on the brakes. Oh, and again, now the natural concertina effect, of course, is going to happen, but they get so close to each other when doing so. It's so easy just to break that split second too late and send your opponent off into the dust. So we now jump slightly further down to Lerner, who's tested a natural GT4 car at Hockenheim this very morning. My goodness me, he's been a busy boy. That's right in the midst of this particular pack, the 26 car, heading down towards Brooklands once again. Field is breaking up a little bit. Oh, and again, side by side through Brooklands. You want the outside line for Brooklands, ideally, which feels counterintuitive whilst you're doing it. It's because you want the inside line for Luffield, which then gives you the inside for Woodcote and Copse, if you can hang on to it. Looking back from Tim Yarshall to the pressure he's got from the 44 of Jack Keithley, who won the second race last time out, is right down there in 14th place.
Yeah, drivers we wouldn't expect to see in the mid-pack include the likes of Tim Yarshall and Jack Keithley. Reminder of the stat, Gergo Baldi at the back of the field, another driver, did not qualify at all, I don't think so, right down at the back. Didn't see him on the qualifying sheet that we had. Moritz Lerner has made a little bit of progress up to 17th, but needs to be doing better than that. How important, though, is that 10th place going to be? We know that for race 2, the top 10 is reversed. So at the moment, it is this position. It is David Tott who would be reversed to the front of the grid for the second race, although I would say that in 21 minutes time it may well be a different driver holding this position, because it is going to be hard fought from everyone behind. Ottaviani, Gomez, Yarshall, they will all know that this is going to be such an important position. So will Jack Keithley, who benefited mostly by finishing 9th in the previous races. I believe Fiducci and Haase were switching positions just a little bit there ahead, as we've got Mikkel Rakel currently on the screen going to complete the second lap of racing. There is Gianmarco Fiducci, and you can see there has been a gap built between Haase and Barner. Barner try and take most advantage from that and go on the hunt for a race victory.
Absolutely, that top trio now a bit of a duo between Antonov and Barner. They have already swapped a little bit of paint in this race, but still plenty of time, 20 minutes ago. And of course, the second race, as you just mentioned, still to conclude here at Silverstone. There is Gianmarco Fiducci just biding his time, doing what he needs to do to keep the pressure on the German directly ahead of him. So scream on down towards Brooklands again. That line will probably stay much as it is for a while, unless someone can force a bit of an issue. Although saying that, Fiducci, I did wonder whether he was going to try and banzai that around the outside, but no, he thinks better of that one, as he's very much nailed to the back of Silty, as we have a replay coming up.
Yeah, taking a look again at the race start and how tight things were. It's more that Kirill Antonov might have got a little bit elbows out down into turn 3 and turn 4, but naturally he's defending the race lead. He's fighting as hard as he can, and Martin Barner was very much on the charge, gets the door opened, and they make contact here on the exit as the Russian holds the race lead. Just runs about a little bit wide. I think it might have just been being unloaded a little bit and wasn't able to turn quite as much. Kirill Antonov has been in the eyes of the race stewards before, but I don't think in that scenario he did anything wrong. Zoltan Sciuti, though, what a slide that was through Beckett. He is fighting that car as hard as he can. That you don't tend to see a little bit of slip and slide at those speeds that often in a front wheel drive.
He's not ideal either, especially when you've got most of the field in very, very close proximity. But that was very, very well held from the Hungarian. So we now scream into Stowe once again. He's keeping Fiducci very much honest up front. Antonov does have a bit of breathing space up front. He's got to 0.6 of a second now over the Hungarian of Barna, which is a bit unusual. That's however is the very hotly contested 10th position. David Toth being absolutely demoted by Ottaviani. I wouldn't be surprised if Ottaviani continues to try and push more towards the front. Whilst the 10th position is, of course, what will land you in pole position, I don't think anyone will get there and kind of stay there if they have the opportunity to press on, as Ottaviani, I'm sure, will continue to do so. There's Manuel Gomez, the Argentinian, also looking on at the battle that's forming right ahead of him with Toth and Ottaviani. Now working his way through the loop and now onto Aintree. A little bit wide on the exit, but nothing too bad. But that's a problem.
What has happened to Tim Yarshall there? Was there contact with someone? There was more smoke down there than expected, but Tim Yarshall round and down the back of the field. Looks like he is going to continue on and reach, he'll try and get to the checkered flag in 17.5 minutes time, but I get the feeling that 24th might be the best he can do because the train has already left the station ahead. And it is a long way to the back of Gergo Baldi. Here is Kirill Antonov then, still leading the race. 17.5 minutes to go though. Martin Barner, his initial pressures on the rear end of the Russian though seems to have dissipated a little bit. They don't want to push it too far with track limits though. You don't want to slow down and you don't want to be breaching the penalty points that are in effect at the moment in the CUPRA SimRacing Series. I believe it's still 40. You get 4 for bits of car contact, 1 for track limit excursions, and that builds up over the race to seeing last round we did see quite a few breaching that limit. I believe Attila Dina did, Juan Manuel Gomez did, and I believe a couple of others certainly did in split 2 as well. So it's something they do have to be mindful and careful of.
Fiducci keeping the pressure on Florian Hasser, as previously mentioned, right behind him. Zuti and Pinces also continuing to contest the same bit of tarmac. We work our way through Stowe down to Vale. Is anyone going to banzai that one on the inside? No, not really close enough. Oh, bit of a twitch from the brakes from the 69 car of Zuti. Does manage to get that one slowed down. It's a very nervous moment. If you're the driver in front, you see someone twitching around, trying to get that car slowed down. You almost brace yourself and wait for the inevitable, but he managed to slow that one down very, very nicely indeed. So we're on the bumper cam now of Adam Pinces working their way through Abbey and Farm once again. Now, there is an element of strategy going on here. We're not seeing lots of blind moves going on. We're not seeing defending of air at this stage in the race. Probably no point because, again, they're just opening themselves up to the counter-attack because the field is so closely condensed. So we might see, although just as I say that, once again, it's 10th position. Whoa, Leandro Vela from Brazil on the outside of Aintree does manage to keep that or inherit that position. Flash of the lights there from Ottaviani. I don't think he was too pleased about that. Oh no! That was a catastrophic moment there from Vela. Oh my goodness. We need to see that one again to see how that one just came about. Well, that is disaster for the Brazilian.
Yeah, I actually get the feeling that might have been more on the hands of Alessandro Ottaviani, just missed doing his braking and then clipping the rear end in the middle of quite a tricky braking zone into Brooke Clinton for our championship leader. That could be potential drama that he could ill afford in his position as he marches forward in this race. Currently now in 9th position, so just within the reverse grid zone. Our focus back to the podium battle, which it has definitely become as the top two. The gap's not got bigger, it's just kind of held around 7/10 between Florian Haase and Martin Barner as we will take another look at this. Once again, we'll be back on board looking backwards from Mikael Raikkonen, and you can see there, keep an eye on the green car. That is Alessandro Ottaviani being covered off, and then right there, he just makes contact on the rear right-hand side of Leandro Vela. I mean, it'll be dealt with post-race, but I get the feeling that race control will look dimly on that.
I fear you may be right on that one, as it did look like the contact was... I'm not suggesting it was intentionally initiated, but it would seem a bit... some fault may well lie with the Italian, and that wouldn't be the first time he's been held accountable for such an impact, alas. But we will see how that one comes. There may well be some argument for desync or lag or something like that, as Vela's car did very violently catapult itself to the right. But we will see when the stewards have a go at that one. I don't envy them. That one is Jack Keithley. Again, has a very squiggly Fordzilla car right ahead of him, but on his left-hand side, can he fend off? a bit elbows out. Oh, it's getting very, very messy down there at the loop. Can Jack Heatley capitalise on that one? He can just about as he secures 11th position.
Heatley getting a bit too aggressive here in the mid-pack. I know he has to get on with it. We're nearly halfway through the race, but that looked a little bit too much. Pinched off Ben Stupanek and then hit the side of Juan Manuel Gomez, who's instantly trying to fire it back. The fiery Argentinian makes contact with a man from Ipswich, and it continues as Ben Stupanek on the scene as well, with Pliszka trying to find his way through the Italian, making contact with Stupanek, looking backwards from Juan Manuel Gomez, as we can see him on our screen as well. Tight battling, hard fought. They are fighting so hard for 11th spot that they're seeing the top 10 pull away. David Topp, who's currently in that position, is clearing. This is 1 second now, the gap between this, and that could be so crucial, because if he can just hang on to the slipstream of Ottaviani and just pull a gap, then 10th place will be his.
Absolutely. He's very much enjoying the fact that the pack 11th and downwards are fighting so hard. That's what the second looks like, looking back from the Hungarian towards the Argentinian. So David Toth is very, very happy about that, I have no doubt. But yeah, Jack Heatley, the stewards already have something to do. He doesn't want to add his name to the steward inquiry list, but we'll see what happens post-event. Look at that. There's another conga line. That is from Uhash down to the tail end of the field. We have lost Yarshall, sadly, from the race. I think maybe we'll have lost Vela as well. But we have indeed lost the Brazilian from the race, which is a great shame, but sadly was inevitable following the incident. But Yarshall trying to make a move on the inside of Vale.
Oh, no.
Whoa! Holy moly! That's well, style points certainly, but that would have cost him some time from the Finn ahead of him.
That was quite impressive. I'll give him that. I don't know what they'd be giving him in sort of gymnastics ruling, maybe a 6 out of 10, but that was pretty interesting and fairly well, something that you definitely don't want to have in a race, as Gianmarco Vannucci is going to run a little bit wide and open the door for Zoltan Suter to try and find his way through, but no way, as the run through Aintree favours the outside line. Still Kirill Antonov leading from Barna, Haase, Vannucci and Suti. You've got Adam Pinsesh directly behind, with Banky as well, going to try and slipstream their way back up to that top lot and get involved with the top party. Let's take a look at that two-wheel action once again, as Christian Uhash from the back of the grid, after not being able to qualify, he gets to the inside up onto two wheels. Rasmus Salo just trying to pinch him a little bit to that curb and the large sausage. Good two-wheeled action, well held to not go over.
Yeah, I'd give that a 7 for artistic impression. That's,
okay.
But that would have hurt when he landed. Was he doing that in these kind of cars in real life would have tested the spine somewhat, but I mean, well held as well. That could have easily rolled. So he held that one very, very well, and didn't lose a great deal of time. Did lose a little bit, which may well come to haunt him later on. So we look back from Florian Haase. That's yellow, black and blue car has been staring at him. The number 46 burning into the back of the German's car, as it has been all race long. So once again, that's the top 5 all fighting for the lead. 1.5 seconds separates Antonov from Zoltan Suter. And again, I thought that was going to be a move there from Fiducci. I probably thought about it, but wasn't close enough to make that one into Stowe. Are we going to see another banzai into Vale? Not this time around, but the top 2 are still there for the taking with less than 10 minutes to go of race 1.
And behind this as well, Banky has got by Pinsesh. Not sure why those two are fighting it out so hard. They really need to close their way up onto this train and get involved with the race victory. The switch of position, though, does see a little bit of time cost to them. Also behind that, Daratot is actually coming under a fair amount of pressure from Juan Manuel Gomez in that 10th spot, so plenty to play for over the next 9.5 minutes. And those kind of positions down the back end of the top 10, they can separate your evening in a very, very big way. You finish 10th, you get yourself a reverse grid pole. You finish 11th, you start the next race in 11th. So you really do not want to finish in that 11th spot. Jack Heatley, considering how aggressive he was a little bit earlier in the race, I'm pretty sure he'll be elbows out to try and get himself involved. And should anything happen, Moritz Lerner is also not too far behind. Got to remember, though, with those car contacts, with the track excursions, have got to be careful of the penalty limit, being told that Jack Heatley is already on 29 incident points. If he breaches 40, it is a straight DQ.
Indeed, without possibility of appeal on that one, as you're just removed immediately from the race. So he can't be too gung-ho. He's got a little bit of breathing space, but you really don't want to be running that incident limit that hard, as it could be someone else's mistake that you're caught up in that sees you pushed over that incident limit. I've seen it time and again where it's someone else's fault, quote unquote, that causes the final disqualification to happen. As we continue to look at the battle for the top spot, Martin Barnes just hung around that half a second mark all race long. Does he have that extra little bit to push as we're now heading towards the closing stages of this race? He can't just concentrate on what's going on ahead of him as well. Look at that of Haase, Fiduci and Zuti all very, very close together. So he cannot just concentrate on forwards. He needs to think about the defensive moves as well, because, like we've already said, the elbows are going to be coming out pretty quickly, I'd have thought.
Yeah, certainly would, especially defending. I mean, I actually think the hard. Yeah, I was going to say that the fight down here is going to be harder than the fight at the front for the race victory. I'd almost guarantee that. David Top going on the attack of Alessandro Ottaviani, with Reiki just pulling away ahead at the moment, separating a little bit, building himself a bit of a distance. The 44 of Jack Keithley pushing Juan Manuel Gomez at the moment towards the back end of this fight for 10th. Still plenty of time left on the clock for them to do anything about it. As I said before, behind that you've got Pliszka, Zupanek, Lerner as well. I think Lucas Vela is a little bit too far off the back to try and gather anything from this. There he is, the Brazilian twin brother of Leandro Vela, as there's contact between Gianmarco Fiduci. He's got to the inside of Florian Haase. Guess who's going to try and get through in this scenario as they're continuing to bump drive? I think that might have been Fiduci saying that wasn't very kind, Mr. Haase, and I'm not sure about it, whether he was leaving his nose in an unfair position. There we go then. Zoltan Suti does get up in the 4th position and gets the switch and gets himself on a potential position rather to attack a podium.
The fiery Mediterranean blood once again being Fiduci's undoing there. I think the rocking on the tyres probably cost him that little bit of momentum and focus coming into Brooklyn has allowed Zuti to follow through into that 4th position. We didn't really see what led to the slight tirade from Gianmarco Fiduci. We saw the end of it, but we didn't see how it led to there. So we don't entirely know what it is that the Italian was unhappy about. He's really closing in again on the Hungarian. He wants that 4th position back. I suspect he's probably going to be a little bit more bullish about his moves in the final 6 minutes.
One driver I am really surprised with on this field at the moment, I don't mean to throw anyone under the bus, but Gergo Baldi still down in 22nd position. Being told that he's very close to breaching the incident limits. That would explain why he's not pushed his way too far up the order. But I mean, 22nd position for a man of his stature, of course, 2-time WTCR esports champion and a driver who's won countless competitions, including a few races in this series, as well as Jack Keithley was passed by Pliszka and switches again. So the battle for 12th place as we jump straight back to it, and contact galore. Ben Supanek as well, ready to take advantage. Remember that Keithley is not too far away from breaching the limit as well.
Indeed. And when you're in this kind of pack, those incident points are so easy to rack up. You're pushing hard, you're pushing the limits of what you're allowed, the lines you're allowed to do, and of course you're still doing a fair amount of door banging with the cars around you. So again, it's got to be very, very careful. 5 minutes to go. I've seen cars disqualified. The final lap, and that's exactly what I was talking about. Someone else's mistake is going to add to your own points tally, your own penalty points tally. Is Jack Keithley has that little bit of contact with Pliszka as we look at Fiduci flying past, trying to reclaim the 4th position from Suti. Can he get it done? He's now going to be on the outside of Florian Haase. No, Haase does manage to shut that door just about. Still side by side now, coming through Luffield. This is the line that Fiduci needed to try and reclaim the position. Even pushes the German forward to ensure he claims that 4th position back from Suti.
That was well thought by Florian Haase, who was trying to leave them side by side into Brooklands, but Fiduci was having absolutely none of it and sent it all the way around the outside of Suti. As we look backwards from Haase to Fiducci, 2 seconds. The top two have cleared off from this, but they are closing up with just a couple of laps left to go in this race. Fiducci, the feisty Italian, is looking plenty fast enough to go and wrestle the podium position away from Florian Haase. Haase, though, is a wily old fox. He's been in the game for a very long time. He definitely knows how to hold a position, and driving for Dirt Esport as their leading man at the moment in this race. Not too far ahead of Bence Banki, who's trying to get involved in the mix. And you can see there that as we look at Haase, you can tell he's under an awful lot of pressure. And here comes Fiducci again.
Oh, outside of Stowe is a brave move to try and make. It's not usually going to come off. He's going to try and cut back underneath the veil. Oh, he's not alongside enough, but he could try and banzai that one if he felt like it. Oh, here comes Zuti. What's he going to be able to do? Oh, a two-wheel effort. Oh, my goodness. The first one was impressive, and someone's trying to copy. Now they're banging doors as they come through Club for the, could be the penultimate time, as they come over the line. Zuti back up into that fourth position from, being on two wheels.
This is absolutely crazy stuff. So, well, I mean, to be fair for Suti, I'd give him maybe a 5 for the actual attempt and the slip and slide and up on two wheels, because it wasn't quite as impressive as we saw earlier, but he got a position through it. So, I don't know, that gives him an extra couple of points as well. Zoltan Suti then to fourth position, and the harder they fight, the more that Banki, the more that Pintesh as well are going to be a part of this fight. A couple of laps to go, and instantly over to the left-hand side of the field, just to try and break the slipstream from Zoltan Suti and Fiducci, goes Haase. Proactive defence. That's actually kind of how I like it. I don't like this reactive driving that I've seen from a few people. You're making your mindset clear. You're saying, I am going here, you go wherever you want, but I am trying to break you apart.
And Zuti almost took the nose off of Fiducci as he returned to the racing line, coming into Brooklands. Now on board with the Italian from Fordzilla once again, over the old start-finish line into Cops, piling on the pressure as he always has been. But how can he reclaim that position? He's gotten past Zuti several times in the race. He's only got really one more lap after this one to be able to do it. So, can he just keep everything under control? We, of course, saw him have that big moment with Vela a few laps back. So he's just got to keep it under control and make sure he just doesn't make that crucial mistake. Oh, unlike Haase, though, I think he was slow coming out of Beckett's. He's going to be under all kinds of pressure. And further back as well, that's Russell with his train going on. Here we go. We're going to have three-way coming into Stowe.
Oh, Suti trying to figure out which way he wanted to go to the inside, and Gianmarco Fiducci going to go around the outside potentially. Oh, not quite on the podium as they're all bumping the rear end of the German. Not fancy any of that. Dur Esports teammate Bence Banki to the inside. 1 lap to go after this as they're still side by side. Zoltan Suti onto the podium. What a send that was on Florian Haase. Gets it done for Mirror Esports, and trying to back out of this, I think he was close to the instant limit point as Florian Haase fancies absolutely none of that. Says, I'm off the podium, I'm out of here, son. I'm going to drop back and get myself a reverse grid decent spot, because that was looking feisty and as if it's going to end in tears.
3rd to 7th in the blink of an eye, and that could have got, look at the amount of cars right behind him, that could have gone awfully wrong, well, more wrong I'd say for Florian Haase, but he could well just stay in that position. But what is Fiducci going to do? And the lead battle isn't resolved either. Kirill Intonov is fighting hard to keep Barna right behind him, now coming into Brooklands for the final time in this race, and Barna getting very, very close once again. Can Antonov hold on to that lead? He hasn't really... Oh my goodness, I thought Fiducci would be determined, but that was something else. But he has forced the issue, he's forced the mistake onto Zuti. Fiducci now over to 3rd.
Yeah, this is tight stuff. This is looking like a heavy tussle, which, like I said, could end very much in tears, because everyone is driving with the red mist at the moment, because it is looking tense out there. Time is ticked down to 0, ready to end the race. Antonov leading from Barna, but this podium battle is intense. The battle for 10th is also intense. Toth now has pressure from Jack Keithley to defend from. Here's Barna on the back of Kirill Antonov. No way through at the moment.
Not at the moment, but again, if he forces the mistake, then Barna could well be the one to take the spoils. onto the hangar straight for the final time in this race. And again, that's racing line being occupied very, very early from Kirill Antonov. Can he maintain it? It does look like he's going to be able to hold on to Barner for now, unless he's going to try and banzai on the inside of Stowe. Can't get alongside. Just one more realistic opportunity, and that is going to be Vale as they're coming up to it. But the Hungarian's a little bit too far back. It looks like Kirill Antonov has done what he needs to do, unless he makes a mistake in these last few turns. Now coming up to Club, and no, it looks like the winner of race number 1 for here at Silverstone is the Russian of Kirill Antonov.
Yeah, Kirill Antonov 3 from 5 then, and takes victory in top honours for Lada Sport Roseneft. Martin Barner, I believe that's his first podium in the CUPRA SimRacing Series, as Gianmarco Verducci comes across the line on the podium after a fierce and intense tussle with Zoltan Suti and Florian Haase. Reverse grid pole is going to go the way of David Toth, and if I'm Martin Barner, I am not worried about that one bit. Second place, good points, and kept out of the drama zone. But now you're going to be sent all the way back to 9th place for the second race, and things are about to get really very, very intense.
A clean sweep then for the Russian of Antonov. He's got the win, the fastest lap, and started from pole. A great effort there. Held the pressure from the Hungarian brilliantly well in the dying stages, but brilliant fighting throughout. I wonder what the stewards are going to think of Mr. Verducci from his earlier tussle with the Brazilian, but you know, that's a post-race incident. We'll see. But for now, he can at least enjoy the podium, which he had to fight very, very hard for.
Yeah, but the thing is I get the feeling there are a few drivers, the likes of Ottaviani, the likes of Verducci, the likes of drivers that are up there in the championship game that might have just got themselves into potentially a little bit too much trouble over that race. And one thing they can ill afford, especially heading into the endurance race, I know obviously you've got plenty of time to come back from it, but what if, for example, you breach the license point limit again, like if you get to 3 license points like Christian Juhasz did, and you have to start from the back? That will make things very, very tricky indeed. And if you're fighting for the championship, you just can't afford that stuff.
No, indeed. I mean, if you're having to start realistically, I would say outside of the top 10, you're going to find it very, very difficult to get towards the top end of that cluster. I mean, how many times did we see, the overtaking counterpunch going on in this very, very closely fought field? It's amazing. If you do manage to get ahead of someone, you're still opening yourself up to counterattack. Getting that additional amount of speed, unless you force a mistake or someone goes very, very wide, is very difficult to do, as we've seen time and again in this season already. We're only at race 2.
Yeah, I mean, with that level of intensity out on circuit, I think there might be a few drivers out on the grid that'll be potentially a little bit miffed, a little bit annoyed at some of the other drivers, and will fancy that, do you know what, I'm going to get one up on you in race 2, because that was not fun for some. Fun for others, though, and I think fun for us in the booth.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So before we head down to race 2, let's have a quick break.
Race 2 up for grabs then from some, as it was a tricky and hard-fought tussle in race 1. We do see, though, David Toth will be reversed onto the pole from Alessandro Ottaviani, your championship leader coming into this. What can he do from his current position? 25 minutes back on the clock, and the racing intensity about to get underway once again. Who is going to come out on top at Silverstone in the second race, as we are underway again? And the 24 of David Toth going to be leading, but look at Mikko Reikl instantly on the attack of Ottaviani for Dur Esports. Fancy to move in the early stages. Florian Haase has been dropped back by Aaron Pinsesh after a hard tussle for the podium in race 1. Fancy's getting himself into the thick end of things, and there's already contact. I think that was Gianmarco Verducci making it 3 wide through turn 2. Toth's leading the way.
He is, at the moment, Ottaviani is a difficult person to defend against at the best of times. Let's see how well the Hungarian does. Look at the fighting further back. This is what we see from the reverse grid race, where you've got people that have slightly slower drivers right ahead of them. Oh, no, that's a slowdown so early on as well. Oh, Suti, what a shame for him. Disaster so early on. Was him right at the end of the field. arguing with everyone over the tiny bits of space that is available to them. But David Toth still leading the way from Ottaviani.
Yeah, I saw Gogo Baldi instantly on the attack and marching his way up the order as he is up to 18th position. By the way, we're down to 23 for this race. It's Tim Yarshall who is the driver missing on the grid. So obviously had issues in race 1 and we didn't quite catch exactly what happened with him. But for race 2, not on the grid, which is a shame for the driver who was victorious here in the e-racing competition before he went on to go and win the title. Florian Haase on your screen, 4th position at the moment, so he was able to fend off the advances of Adam Pinsesh. His teammate Ben Spanky will be on the case of that as well, just in the background, and try and fancy his way up the order. I wonder if it was getting close to the incident limit that dropped Florian Haase down, or maybe to try and better his position for race 2, as Ottaviani on the attack for the race lead to the inside of David Toth. I think it might be done for the Italian.
Yeah, Toth, I think, realised that one was done. A very textbook manoeuvre from the Italian, but he was sufficiently alongside, and David Toth didn't fancy having a go at trying to shut that door with the number 15 car well and truly alongside. Well driven. But Ottaviani now a prime opportunity for him to just drive off into the sunset if he can get David Toth to kind of hold up those behind him. We will see, but the 24 car is not interested in doing that. He's not interested in being a rear gunner, staying very much in the tyre tracks of Ottaviani at the moment, but that is going to be a difficult man to keep up with. As that's Rochelle that again had to go on the inside of Village and thinking about inside manoeuvre again. Coming into the loop, not quite. Lots of people thinking about the side-by-side, though, coming through turn 4, as we can see a little bit further back. But so far, so good then. But, David Toth just needs to kind of stay there. Easier said than done, but he's got someone to slipstream off of now, at very least. Hopefully score another good haul of points.
Remember, though, as much as we don't have a livery on this car, it is a Door Esports outfitted car with Mikael Reichel, obviously teammates with Florian Haase, Ben Spanky and Moritz Lerner as well, who's now inside the top 10, the race winner from Silverstone. The intensity of this fight is obviously just going to continue on for the next 20-odd minutes, so it's going to be a hard fight, but if Door Esports can get themselves up the order, it'd be fantastic for them. Zoltan Suti's early issues continue as he is out of the second race, so we are down to just 22 with Pliszka at the back. Not sure exactly what happened to Suti. Believe it was a slowdown coming out of T5 at Aintree, but either way, dropped down to the back of the pack and fancied not continuing in the middle of a very hard-fought and hard contested battle, and a very big shame for Suti, who showed decent pace.
Certainly did. You can understand the frustration kicking in so early on, and with overtaking so difficult in this field, he's opted just to call it a night very early on. And our race 1 winner, Kirill Antonov, down into 12. So they would have started, of course, in 10th positions, lost 2 already. Look at this lot, though. Michael Rachel is almost kind of pushing David Toth along the road. But he's got Florian Haase still in a strong position right with him. Is anyone going to be making the move? No, everyone's just kind of biding their time and behaving themselves at the moment. But my goodness me, it's Florian Haase trying to get past his countryman for that third position at the moment. I'd imagine this, again, like we had in the first race, it can be an element of biding their time at this point in time. But we will see, as we've already said, overtaking being that difficult, we might see some people just trying to force the move as and when it presents itself. But again, we've seen it, go against the drivers when they make a move that isn't realistically there. It costs them so much time that's very, very hard to remake.
Yeah, it really, really is. Look at how much ground, by the way, Gergo Baldi's made up in this race. So I seem to go a little bit better in race 2, up to 15th position ahead of Juan Manuel Gomez. Rasmus Salo directly behind as he goes on the attack of the Ballas Esports driver of Luciano Vitford. You've got Christian Newharsh as well directly ahead of this. There is Gergo Baldi, and despite being in the middle of just some of the hardest touring car racing that you can find, barely looks like he's out for a morning walk. Just as calm as you like. No marshmallows, no, so he's fine. As Ottaviani then still leading the way. A second separates the top 5. Ottaviani, Toth, Reichel, Haase and Adam Pinsesh, with Banky, Barner, Fiducci, Keithley and Ben Supanek rounding out the top 10. So Moritz Lerner dropped outside of it, as well as we did see at the back end of this train. We did catch that our race winner from last time, or the last race, Kirill Antonov, has dropped to 12th position, potentially just waiting for this race to unfold a little bit. I don't think we're going to see what happened to the Russian last season, where he won 2 races in one row. I don't think, unless there is an absolutely inspired drive, I don't think we're going to see that this season, with how tight it is.
No, indeed, I would agree with that. No disrespect meant to the mighty Russian. He proved, certainly in the race one, he has the pace and ability to defend. But it's just because you don't have a huge field spread going on in this series, as we see David Toth considering a move on the outside towards Stowe. But that's Russia that's thinking about it. On the inside of Stowe, it looks like, is Florian Haase going to make a move? No, everyone is still just trying to bide their time. But all this is doing is piling the pressure on the one in front of them. And Ottaviani has got what must feel like the whole world on his shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in races like this where you're under a lot of pressure, not onto this kind of level of field and this kind of championship, but it is hard work. And all that is going through your mind when you've got all these drivers over the rear end of you is, I can't keep this up for 20 more minutes. It's not possible. But you have to. And speaking of which, there goes Raikkonen around the outside. What a stunner. There's a little bit of contact with the Hungarian of David Toth, and that might just allow the door to be open, at least in a gap form, for Ottaviani to pull away. But the slipstream that should pull the German to the rear end of Ottaviani, looking for their first victories in the series as well, for good measure. And you can see there already Raikkonen is feeling pumped about that lovely move.
That was absolutely brilliantly done. Again, you can argue that was several laps in the making, but it was just a moment, well timed execution, and he knows he's got Ottaviani to kind of keep a bit of slipstream ahead of him to help defend from any kind of counter-attack. That was brilliantly done. No door banging, no wild moves, no mass spinning going on, anything like that. As we look back at Antonov side by side coming into Gops.
Oh no!
And that's a little bit scruffy, but a little bit of tapping as well on the exit of Gops. But both cars live to turn another turn, as they're still side by side coming down into Beckett's, but nope, they haven't managed to figure that one out. Nothing happening for Kirill Antonov at this moment in time. Oh, Florian Haase, those side by side with Adam Pinces on the exit of Chapel. They've gone through, I wonder whether Florian made a mistake then coming through Mackers and Beckett's. That's on the back of David Toth, now down into third position. Florian Haase, you don't know, is he going to make the move? No, not quite. The Hungarian does manage to shut that door. But that's allowed Raikkonen to kind of chase off after Ottaviani. David Toth thinking about, well, he has to defend. He actually took the defensive line, coming down into Vale, parking himself quite nicely in the middle of the road. Florian Haase is really piling the pressure on now. And
Moritz Lerner's dropped right down to 21st position, so clearly something has happened between him and the Russian of Kirill Antonov. He is out of the races, Moritz Lerner, so down and out. Was wondering what had happened with him, because he actually dropped off the back of the train for the top 10. Was running in 11th spot, and then really just dropped backwards, and we saw was coming into the clutches of the pack behind, as there goes the dive, and there is the move completed from Florian Haase finally. But David Toth doesn't fancy any of that, instantly dives it back down. That is in a little bit too deep, and Florian Haase swoops back around, going to try and leave the door open for the other Door Esports driver of Benz Banky as well, as he'll try and fight his way through. Also, you've got Barner and Pinsesh, ex-teammates, going toe-to-toe as well just behind this, as the fights are going to continue. No way through for Banky, but that was very aggressive from Toth.
A little needlessly, I'd have thought, but he's trying his best to hang on to the potential podium there that's sadly been sort of taken from him. That you've got to accept that there's going to be drivers starting behind you that are a little bit quicker than you in these reverse gear races. It was a fair effort, but sadly it forced him into an overcommittal down into the levels. We look back from Ottaviani. That's Raikkonen, that lovely outside manoeuvre on David Toth last time around, and that's a little bit of door banging as you would expect coming through the loops. It does pinch up a little bit there, but nicely driven from the German. Yeah, he has every reason to be happy with that move.
Yeah, I would have been like screaming that one from the rooftops. I've done a few moves where instantly afterwards I'm like really just geeing myself up and just trying to fight for the next position. And Raikkonen there instantly on the attack. The harder he fights though with Ottaviani, he's in a great position at the moment because he's got the Italian ahead. He wants to get by. He wants to win for the first time in the CUPRA SimRacing Series. He's also got his teammate behind, so he doesn't have any real worries of too heavy pressure. I'm sure Haase would definitely go for something if the door's open, but he doesn't have to worry about too much pressure from behind. It's all a bit even in that sense. Florian Haase being up there in the championship standings, obviously won at Hockenheim last season. And did get himself up into the mix in the previous round of this season as well at Hockenheim. So does fancy himself around that venue and looking very, very strong here as well at Silverstone. Was fighting for the podium in race 1, fighting for the podium in race 2 as well. Does David Tott fancy a move on him? It's semi-covered off. There's a bit of a mistake from Alessandro Ottaviani. Mikael Raikkonen doesn't need a second invitation as he may be potentially going for a little bit of a cutback here and the run-through entry into Brooklands.
Yeah, it looks set up for it, but it looks like Ottaviani has managed to recover enough, or at least disrupt the momentum from the German onto the Wellington straight. But he's gone for that defensive line very early on anyway to try and cover off any move. That's going to put Raikkonen on the outside line coming through Brooklands. Oh, that's close. Couldn't get alongside though. A great effort, but well defended from the 15. As they now sweep through left field. That battle right behind them, Florian Haase, David Toth continuing very much so, along with Bent Banky right with them as well, along with Barner and Fiducci. So Fiducci all the way down in 8th position now. So he's not going his way. We saw him flashing his lights, which was tended to be a bit of a precursor to some objection or a potential move from the Italian. At the moment, he seems unable to get past Barner right ahead of him.
Yeah, got Zupanek as well when Jack Keithley on the charge with Antonov and a fair distance back. I think that gap is starting to close up. Potentially Martin Barner, maybe even Adam Pinses, just struggling a little bit on speed and not able to pull away from this train and go and gather themselves up to a charge for race victory. Halfway through the race though, here at Silverstone, Ottaviani still leading the way. Raikko's got a little bit of a gap though, so it's just opened up a touch, just maybe allowing a few corners of relief for Ottaviani, which, trust me, in this scenario you absolutely take. It just gives you time to breathe, give your heart time to rest a little bit, because it may be a sim, it may be a virtual race. It's a real race though. These people are fighting hard. They're fighting tooth and nail, and their hearts are feeling it right now.
Oh, aren't they just? Yeah, I don't think there's any rest going on for anyone unless you've retired. I mean, bearing in mind that all the remaining cars are separated by just under 10 seconds. So there's no rest really for anybody out there. As we look at Attila Dina at the tail end of the field, but in this mighty great train, well positioned if there is an issue already ahead. Oh, someone's kicked up a bit of dust somewhere further up the road. And a continuing loss of side-by-sides going on. And that's Antonov trying to get into the top 10, rather muscling his way. Lots of two wheels. What is the two-wheel effort going on? I didn't get a memo about artistic impression going on with the cars today. There's lots of people challenging those sausage curbs. But Antonov back up into 10th position, but it's not really where I think he expected to be. That's a big move from Keithley behind, but can't get alongside. It's a difficult place to make a move unless you're committed much earlier than that down in the Brooklands.
I didn't realise CUPRA had an entry into the World Superbike Championship, but we're seeming to get one here because they are on two wheels all the time. There was a big one from Gergo Bowley just in the background, but that was an absolute send from Kirill Antonov. Potentially just a little bit of a push too far. Seeing quite a lot of that, and I'm sure it's something that will be viewed on post-race, because as much as we've seen some great racing, we've just seen people a little bit too pushy, which is just how it goes at Silverstone, where you've got so many overtaking opportunities, but everyone's just a little bit tricky to fully commit to. You think like an actual percentage of difficulty for an overtaking move, all of them are actually really, really hard, because they're all sort of high to medium speed. If not, they're slow. After a fairly medium speed corner, you've already scrubbed off most of it, so you really have to commit to that move, and yeah, just potentially just a little bit too far as we're looking backwards from Ottaviani on the chasing pack. Top 5 separating the rear end of the fielders. Definitely seeing that Adam Pintes struggling potentially for a little bit of speed. Top 5 separated by a second, and then there's a second and a half back to the Hungarian.
And equally, a mistake is so costly, because again, there's such a short field spread. They're all fantastically quick drivers. Even those towards the tail end of the field, it's always easy to forget how good they are to have gotten this far in the first place. But they're all absolutely pushing so hard. No one is driving at 80%. No one is realistically going for the Sunday drive. Everyone is pushing very hard, and nearly, as we look at Salo, nearly being physically pushed by Leandro Vela as they work their way through the first sector of Silverstone. It looked a little deep from that camera angle, but I'm sure the Brazilian had it under control. But everyone is pushing as hard as they possibly can.
Yeah, they really are. Just trying to find any way through at the moment and potentially march their way forwards. And I get the feeling we've seen some great racing, and I do hope that continues. I do hope we see a tense tussle for the race lead, because we have seen that at the early stages. It's just about trying to break away as Leandro Vela, under a lot of pressure from Rasmus Salo, the position switch. They're going to potentially switch again as Leandro Vela on the attack after being escorted off into the wall at Brooklands in race 1. Goes on the charge and on the hunt for points in this one.
There he is, still leading the way. Rakel, Haase, Toth, all all less than a second. Banky's just over a second indeed from the lead as they work their way into Magazabekis once again. Less than, or just over rather, 8 minutes remaining. Still plenty to be fighting for, and still plenty of pressure being applied to the Italian as he comes out of Chapel. And again, you can see how early he goes to that defensive line. He's not leaving anything to chance. Heading down towards Stowe once again. Rakel thinking about it, but no. I wondered if he thought about an outside manoeuvre there, but that door got shut on him very early.
Yeah, all behind. I think Ben's Banky's going to try and get a move on Tot. It looked close on the exit, but still not so. Stowe, but going into club. There's the send, not quite enough. And Dirt Esports looking to get even more cars up the order, currently running in second and third. They are in a very good spot to potentially make this a 1-2-3, as pulling way out of the slipstream Florian Haase. Not 100% sure why he went over that far, but as you do.
East of the room. Jumping back to Jack Heathley then, so was second in the championship heading into this round. Didn't have quite as strong a performance in race 1 as he probably would have liked, and he's stuck very much in that pack again. As Juhas right with him, trying to pressure with the position, and again lots of people trying the two-wheel effort going on out of the loop. Oh, that was very nearly an issue there for Zupanek at the head of that particular train. But he's sticking to the racing line. I think he's more trying to concentrate on running his own race more than defending hard from the cars behind. Oh, side by side, right behind. Oh, that's Juhas and Keithley. Is that going to... I think that's going to bite Juhas back, as he's now lost a position as a result of that.
Yeah, Gogo Bowley coming through. All the drivers will be potentially getting close to their instant limit in this one, considering how hard fought this has been. Gogo Bowley has marched his way up from the rear of the field, up now to 12th position. So he's gone by 11, and now trying to work just that little bit further forward, get himself inside the top 10. All these points, all these positions are points paying one. So in that sense, just trying to tick off an extra couple for any position gained and make up for lost time in race 1. Of course, it's a fairly long season as well, 10 rounds before we head to Macau. 10-round season. We're currently on round 2, so still 8 to go. Once we've departed the home of British motorsport, we return to Germany, to the Nordschleife, and I'm sure Rakel will want to return there as a race winner, as he's going to try and send it around the outside of Stowe. Not sure if this one's going to work, because the outside line just doesn't really favour those trying to commit to it, but it might just give himself enough of a run. Florian Haase, I believe, might have gained the position on his teammate. There's contact on the rear of the Italian, as well as David Tot as well, trying to get back onto the podium to the inside of Rakel, who's dropped a position to Florian Haase. Ben Banky as well, going to try and find his way through.
And we still have 5.5 minutes to go. There's absolutely incredible stuff. The top, well, everybody pretty the top field, all 10 seconds apart, still side by side coming through Abbey. Oh, that's someone wasn't very happy about that one. As you can see, Banky flashing his lights. It's had a big move on the inside of Village, trying to get past over top. A bit of a punch in the face to the Hungarian, but that's not going to pay off, I don't think, as David Todd's going to have the inside lines. He gone a bit too deep again. No, that's just the cut back from Banky there, making that one work. There he is, trying to reclaim that 4th position, side by side, coming through Aintree onto the Wellington straight again. That lead still being challenged. This time it's Florian Haase having to go out the Italian up front. Banky defending for all he's worth, coming down into Brooklands, and just about fends off the advantage of David Toth. So it's another position he's lost, but the Hungarian's done a brilliant job of staying as high as he can in the field.
Yeah, but look at the train that has closed in behind Gianmarco Fiducci, king of the cutback at the Hockenheim ring. Definitely pulled off a few good ones in his time. He'll be looking at that one from Bent Banky and thinking, well, that was a pretty impressive move himself. As Fiducci will try and get involved in this, will try and get onto the podium, will try and even potentially go for a race victory as the top of the pre-qualifier coming into this. Christian Uhart, disqualification. That'll be for breaching the points limit. So one to add to the list of just one at the moment. Whether we'll get any more added to that over the next 4 minutes, we'll have to wait and see. They'll have 2 laps once they cross the timing beam this time, and it's going to be an intense couple of laps, I'll tell you that.
Because we haven't had enough intensity already, as we see Gomez very sideways coming through Beckett, now towards Chapel. Here we go, that's the lead pack. Fiducci now up into 6th position. We saw him trying to make his way up the field earlier on. Oh, has he left the door open for pincers? No, just manages to slam that one shut before the Hungarian comes. Well, I say the Hungarian, there's several of them, as we know. Oh, Fiducci having a go now.
No.
Oh, that could have gone horribly wrong for the 24. That's going to lose him a bit of momentum. Fiducci's really got nowhere to use it. So well driven from both of them. To that I was expecting that to become a very nasty mess.
Yeah, I think David Top might have come back across the nose of Fiducci there in the braking zone and just didn't give quite enough room. They're lucky to get away with that if that is the case. And Fiducci sensing that the top lot are getting away. Maybe the Hungarians outdone his tyres of David Toth. Around the outside, though, the Italian of Gianmarco Fiducci, just as good as we saw earlier. A bit of contact as well. And that is very much a mimicking move of what Raikkonen did in the earlier stages of the race. Team Fortilla up to the top 5 as their other driver, Juan Manuel Gomez, has dropped down to 17th spot now. So issues at one end of the garage at Team Fortilla and seemingly going well on the other.
Fiducci pressing on now, but can he maintain that position? Well, he certainly can. He's got the pace and the ability to do so. A bit of a gap to close down to Banky, though. So he's got a second to close in before he can get himself involved in that lead pack. But with only 2.25 minutes to go, I don't think time's going to really be on his side, as we see Ottaviani again maintaining that defensive line, heading down towards Copse, keeping the advances of Florian Haase, who's not afraid to chuck the car into a position-winning position, I should say. So we've seen that several times from him as we look at the replay of Fiducci claiming that 5th position from David Toth. So a bit of elbows out. We know he's not afraid to do it, but in the end, it went the way of the Italian.
Yeah, that was a really, really superb move. There was a little bit of contact there on the exit between himself and David Toth, but all seemed well towards the end. Timer ticking down. 1 lap to go at the end of this one. Alessandro Ottaviani still leading, but it is now from Florian Haase, who is hungry for victory. Took him a long time to get his first victory in the CUPRA SimRacing Series. Took it at the Hockenheim last season. And hasn't taken a win since, because it wasn't very long ago, I'll give it that, but certainly is hungry for more. And the German already on the tack. He's got by his teammate Raikkonen, he's got Bent Banky as well directly behind. So it is Dürr Esports 2, 3 and 4 looking to make it 1, 2 and 3 at the home of British Motorsport. And at the current point, they may well do it. They have to go on the hunt. They have to pass the driver who came into this round as the leader of the championship. It is going to be a hard fight to do so, but if there's any team that can do it, it certainly is our latest super team.
Here we go then for the final time of asking, and Florian, he made the intention to go over the inside of the loop. That's going to cost him a little bit of momentum as they work their way through Aintree onto the one into straight once again. Now, you would imagine Florian is probably not going to have an awful lot of challenge from his teammates behind. We will see then as the Dürr Esports trio is still piling the pressure onto Ottaviani. That's a sentence to say. Coming into Brooklands now, still no change. Into Luffield. Can the 55 hold on to that lead spot, or will he be dethroned? It's going to take a mistake out of Thor from Ottaviani. We know how well he can defend. We know the pace he's got. That's the view. The most unenviable position to be in all of sim racing right now is that the tail end of Alessandro Ottaviani chasing to maintain, and to extend rather, his championship lead.
No wins in the CUPRA SimRacing Series for Alessandro Ottaviani. Said there was that one for Haase, none for Raikkonen, 4 for Banki, a driver who has won in both of the previous seasons. One of those drivers I alluded to before, the likes of Gogo Baldi as well, I believe, and Jack Keithley being winners in previous seasons of the CUPRA SimRacing Series. Bent Banki being one of those. I think he's a bit hard pressed to go for it today, but for Florian Haase, this could be his best opportunity. He doesn't have many left to go, as there's going to be a switch between the teammates in the background. It might open the door as well, as Raikko's just sent it on his teammate, and that could have cost the team victory here. But I think Florian Haase is going to absolutely send it. He's got to. He's got one final opportunity at the club chicane, as the Dur Esports outfit could be denied here by the Italian of Alessandro Ottaviani. Welcome to the winner ranks of the CUPRA SimRacing Series. Ottaviani on top here at Silverstone from Haase, Raikkonen, Banki and Fiducci.
My goodness me, that must be a very, very sweaty driver's seat from Ottaviani. All the pressure in the world. But yeah, I wonder whether that moment at Stowe between the Dur Esports crew may well have cost Florian the best opportunity he had to make that move stick down into Vale. We'll never know. But even still, a great result nonetheless.
That's water he's drinking, but I think you saw that instantly talking. Now that's obviously because the team will all be talking to each other, and I would assume that Raikkonen was more so trying to defend from his teammate Banki, which, naturally you're going to race for the podium, of course you are, your teammates, but still, as Ottaviani going for a bit of a trek there. Maybe just explaining to Florian Haase, I'm sorry, mate, I just accidentally sent it there. It wasn't really my intention to try and make anything stick. But we don't know what's happening on the inside of Dur Esports, and either way, they'll be very impressed with 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and no disrespect to Moritz Lerner, but out of the race, I don't think they'll be too impressed with how his round has gone. Just all went awry in qualifying, and that really did seal his fate. A bit of a shame there. 2nd fastest lap though from Kirill Antonov, so showing that he had some very, very good speed around the Silverstone circuit. Obviously pole position and race winner earlier in the night for the 3rd time in the CUPRA SimRacing Series. But this at the moment does seem to belong, a little bit at least, to Ottaviani, who worked his way up inside the top 10 and made full effect of the top 10 reverse.
That he did. The fastest laps of everybody was separated by about 7 or 8 tenths. So again, highlights how close that field is and how difficult it is to maintain any kind of pace advantage over everybody. Ottaviani, my word, what a race he's had to round out a brilliant nice racing at Silverstone. So yeah, very much looking forward to having a chat with him.
Yeah, with Nordschleifer next up, completely different round, a completely different kettle of fish. Not only is it a wildly different circuit, but the Nordschleifer as well will host an endurance race. So we'll see them race around for 60 seconds for 60 minutes rather, when we get there. But for now, we'll jump down to Rob Wiesenmüller for an interview.
Yes, indeed we are, and I think I'm joined here by Alessandro Ottaviani. So let's just get you onto the screen here. Alessandro.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Congratulations, Alessandro.
Thank you.
What a race. Came into the round as the championship leader, and now you got your first victory in the CUPRA SimRacing Series. Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a really tough race. And yeah, I did not a great qualifying because I did some mistake in my last lap. And yeah, the feeling it was quite good at the start of race 1. I did a good start, but yeah, some contact in the first lap, and yeah, I did a crash with a car involved, and yeah, it was quite sad. But yeah, race 2 it was completely another story. I did a good start, and yeah, I took the lead, and I try to get fast as much as I can. Yeah, it was a great fighting with Raikkonen and Haase, and yeah, it was really, really incredible. For me, this victory is completely unexpected.
So now the 2nd round in a row where you did a very good result. Do you think this year maybe the championship is possible?
I don't know, honestly, because yeah, I did a good result in Hockenheim and here at Silverstone, But yeah, I don't know if I will have the same luck in the next round. But for sure, I will try to push on the edge and as much as I can to stay on front. And I hope it will be enough in the at final championship.
All right. Congratulations once again, and thanks for the interview, Alessandro.
Thank you.
And back to Lewis and Chris.
Well, great to hear from our latest race winner in the CUPRA SimRacing Series, Ottaviani on top. And after, as we said before, after it was a round that maybe flew a little bit under the radar at Hockenheim to top the standings, that round is very much like someone contending for a title.
Somewhat, yeah. I think he's quite happy about that, and he would have every reason to be. What an outstanding performance. But we've got some very different circuits further up. So, Nords is a very, very different circuit. Sounds like, stating the obvious. But, will that consistency hold for Ottaviani, or will we see, yet another podium stander?
I get the feeling that we are going to see some very different stuff unfold over this championship, and I'm sure that'll continue at Nordschleife as well before we head to Aragon and Spa, which always throws up some fantastic racing in our race towards Macau and for the title of the 2021 CUPRA SimRacing Series champion. Who will it be? Well, you'll have to join us to find out. Maybe you yourself can get yourself onto the grid. Qualifying is open for the next round, so you can fight your way onto the 24-car tussle that we see round from round. Until next time, though, thank you very much for joining. I've been Lewis McGlade. Chris Buxton has been alongside me, so thanks to Chris, and thanks, of course, to Rob Wiesenmüller for the camera work. Until next time, bye-bye.